Excuse me, can we get a room? No, there is no space for you here.
He owns the entire hotel. The front desk clerk just told him to leave. 3 minutes later, security had him surrounded, his 9-year-old daughter watching from his shoulder, and not one person in that lobby knew the man they were throwing out signed every paycheck in the building. What happened in the next 60 seconds got 2 people fired and 1 phone call away from changing everything. Subscribe and comment where you're watching from, you won't want to miss how this ends. A black single father walked into his own hotel on a Tuesday night and asked for a room. The clerk looked him over once, the jacket, the sleeping child on his shoulder, the worn stuffed bear, and said the hotel was fully committed. 4 minutes later, that same clerk handed 2 key cards to a couple who hadn't even called ahead, no reservation, no prior contact, coats that cost more than most people's monthly rent. He didn't say a word. He simply sat down in a lobby chair, settled his daughter against his side, and waited. Because Devon Harris had learned something a long time ago about the difference between what people show you when they think you matter, and what they show you when they've decided you don't. When he asked to speak with a manager, he was told the hotel was a private establishment, and that continuing to occupy the lobby after being asked to leave would not be permitted. Security was called. 2 guards took their positions beside his chair. His daughter woke up, and the first thing she did, before she said a word to her father, was look directly at the manager and ask, with the complete sincerity of a child who takes questions seriously, "Are you making us leave because of how we look?" Before the night was over, 2 people would be terminated on the spot. 1 would be promoted. And every person in that lobby would understand, in a way they would not easily forget, exactly who the man in the leather jacket was. If you have ever walked into a room and felt the temperature change the moment people decided what you were worth, this one is for you. Stay with us. Devon Harris had not planned to stop here tonight. 3 months in London had a way of making a man remember what actually mattered, not the meetings, not the contracts, not the conference rooms on the 14th floor. The things that mattered were simpler than that. A real bed. A hot shower. The specific sound of his daughter breathing steadily in the room next door. The flight had landed nearly 2 hours behind schedule. By the time Devon cleared customs, loaded his single bag into the car, and got Maya buckled into the back seat, her head already dropping against the window before he had even closed the door, her stuffed bear pressed against her chest the way it always was when she slept, driving another 55 minutes to their house felt like a decision made by someone with worse judgment than he had. He made the call the way he made most decisions. Quietly. Without ceremony. Without calling ahead to tell anyone where he was going. He knew exactly where he was going. The Harris Empire on Calloway Street. The corner property he had purchased at 28 years old when it was a mid-tier hotel bleeding money from every floor, occupancy in the low 40s, staff turnover that had become a running joke in the industry, a reputation for being the kind of place people stayed at only when everything else was full. He had walked through it the first time with a legal pad and a contractor he trusted and spent 4 hours writing down everything that was wrong with it before he wrote the check. 7 years later, it was this. Marble floors he had selected himself. Pendant lighting he had argued about with 3 different designers before getting it right. A front desk of dark polished stone that anchored the lobby the way he had always believed the entrance of a hotel should be anchored, with something that told a guest, before a single word was exchanged, that someone had thought carefully about how they deserved to feel when they walked through the door. It was his flagship. His standard. The property he pointed to when people asked what Devon Harris actually believed about hospitality. He had not been back in 3 months, and he had not called ahead. That was always intentional. Devon had a habit, one his operations team had long since stopped trying to talk him out of arriving at his properties unannounced and dressed the way he was dressed now. Leather jacket worn soft at the elbows. Dark jeans. Plain sneakers. No watch. No luggage that announced anything about who he was or what he owned. It was the only honest way to see what a place actually was when no one was performing for the boss. You could read 100 inspection reports and miss the thing that mattered most. You could not miss it when you were standing in the lobby yourself, dressed like anyone else, watching. His father had taught him that. Not directly. Not in a speech or a lesson. But in the 19 years he had spent cleaning the lobbies of hotels not unlike this one, coming home before sunrise with a particular tiredness in him that Devon had understood even as a boy, even before he had the words for what caused it. His father had told him once, sitting at the kitchen table after a long shift, that the way a place treats the people it thinks don't matter tells you everything you need to know about it. Not the guests it was trying to impress. The ones it thought it could afford to ignore. Devon had never forgotten it. He had built an entire company around the belief that it didn't have to work that way. Maya had fallen asleep somewhere over the Atlantic and had not fully woken since. She was 9 years old and weighed almost nothing against his shoulder, but after 3 months apart Devon would have carried her twice the distance without once thinking about it. She had her grandmother's braids, neat, precise, the kind that took patience Devon did not personally possess, and her father's habit of holding on to things long past the point when most people would have let go. She was currently demonstrating that habit with a small worn stuffed bear that had been through 4 countries and 2 continents and showed every mile of it. Devon held her with one arm and pushed through the front entrance with the other. The lobby of the Harris Empire was exactly as he remembered it. Warm light across the marble. The low, unhurried sound of music from somewhere near the bar. A long front desk staffed at this hour by a single clerk. The space had been designed, deliberately, carefully, at considerable argument and expense, to make every person who entered it feel immediately at ease. Immediately seen. Immediately welcome. Devon had approved every detail of that design himself. He crossed the floor slowly, mindful of Maya's weight, and approached the desk. The clerk was a young man. Late 20s. Blonde. Wearing the hotel's gold-trimmed uniform with the kind of careful precision that suggested he took appearance seriously, understood it as its own form of authority. His name tag read Tanner. He looked up from his screen as Devon approached. And something moved across his face. Not dramatically. Not with any aggression or obvious intent. Just a quiet recalibration, the specific, almost imperceptible shift that happens when a person's eyes deliver information their brain has already processed before the mouth has been warned to be careful. He looked at the leather jacket. He looked at Maya. He looked back at his screen. Tanner Larson had worked the front desk of the Harris Empire for just over 2 years, and in that time he had developed a particular instinct, the kind that came from reading hundreds of faces a week and sorting them quickly into categories that mattered. He believed in that instinct. He had never once been told it was wrong, mostly because the people it failed never came back to argue about it. He was 28, sharp-featured, blonde, and he wore the hotel's gold-trimmed uniform with a precision that suggested he understood appearance as its own kind of authority, the kind you didn't need a title to exercise, just a desk and a screen and the right tone of voice. "Good evening," Devon said. His voice was even, unhurried, a man asking for something simple. "I need a room for tonight. 1 night, 2 guests. Nothing elaborate." Tanner didn't answer right away. When he did, he leaned forward slightly, just enough, and pitched his voice with the careful calibration of someone who wanted to be heard by more than just the man standing in front of him. "I'm sorry, sir. This isn't really a walk-in situation. We have a reservation system for a reason." Devon looked at him. "I'm asking for a room. Do you have availability or not?" Something shifted in Tanner's posture, not aggressive, just settled, the quiet confidence of a man who believed the counter between them gave him the right to decide who belonged on which side of it. "We're fully committed tonight. I'd suggest trying somewhere on the east side. There are several options more suited to." He stopped just short of finishing. He didn't need to. The pause finished it for him. Devon didn't react. He didn't raise his voice. He simply stood there, looking at Tanner with the careful, unhurried attention of a man cataloging exactly what he was seeing. Around him, the lobby carried on the way he had designed it to. Warm light across the marble. The low pull of jazz from near the bar. Guests settled into lounge chairs, unbothered, comfortable, exactly as comfortable as he had once intended every person to feel the moment they walked through that door. He found himself wondering, not for the first time tonight, what happened to the things you built once you handed them to other people to run. He asked once more, evenly. Nothing at all? The standard room is fine. Tanner repeated himself with the smooth, practiced patience of a man who had delivered this particular line many times before. As far as he was concerned, the conversation was finished. Behind Devon, the front door opened. A couple walked in. And Tanner Larson's entire face changed. The couple moved across the marble floor the way people do when they have never once been told a room wasn't available, unhurried, certain, coats that cost more than most people's monthly rent. No reservation. No bags being checked against a list. Just the easy confidence of guests who had learned, somewhere along the way, that the world tended to make space for them. Tanner's shoulders lifted before they had even reached the desk. His smile arrived fast and genuine, the real one, Devon noted, not the practiced version he'd just been handed. His voice warmed by several degrees. Welcome to the Harris Empire. How can I help you this evening? Within 6 minutes, a card had been processed, 2 key cards presented with both hands, and a warm, enjoy your stay, sent the couple off toward the elevators. Devon watched every second of it. He didn't move from his spot at the end of the counter. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The message had been delivered without a single syllable passing between him and Tanner, and both men in that lobby understood it perfectly, even if only one of them was willing to admit it to himself. Maya stirred against his shoulder, her voice thick with half-sleep. Daddy, are we at the hotel yet? Devon tightened his arm around her. We're here, baby. Just give me a minute. He turned back to the desk. His voice, when he spoke again, was calm the way very still water is calm, not because nothing was happening beneath the surface, but because whatever was happening hadn't yet decided to rise. I'd like to speak with the manager on duty, please. Tanner's expression flickered, something less smooth underneath the polish now, a hairline crack in the composure he wore like part of the uniform. He picked up the desk phone without a word and dialed a short extension. Devon watched him glance once toward the elevators, once toward the lounge, as if recalculating who might be listening now that the situation had stopped being simple. Devon didn't fill the silence. He stood with Maya settled against him, looking out at the lobby he had built, the marble, the warm pendant light, the easy comfort he had once believed was the whole point of a place like this. He thought, briefly, about how little it would have cost Tanner to simply say yes the first time. How a single sentence, offered without hesitation, would have ended this before it started. Instead there would be a manager. A conversation. A record of exactly how far this was going to go. He found he wasn't in a hurry to stop it. The manager arrived 2 minutes later. And she came to the situation with a conclusion already drawn. She arrived the way people arrive when they've already decided how a conversation is going to end. Mid-30s, composed, a navy blazer that fit like authority itself was something you could put on in the morning. Her name tag read Christine, and she positioned herself beside Tanner at the desk, the two of them on one side, Devon and his sleeping daughter on the other. The geometry of it was not subtle. Devon noticed it immediately. He suspected she had not. Sir, Christine said, her voice measured, professional, polished into something smoother than Tanner's version of the same message. I understand there's been some confusion. We're at full capacity tonight. I apologize for the inconvenience, but there's nothing further I can do. She had clearly been briefed before she reached the counter. She had not come to the situation with an open mind. She had come to it with a conclusion already written. There's no confusion, Devon said. I watched your staff book a room for a walk-in couple while telling me there was nothing available. I'd like you to explain that. Christine's expression didn't move. Our staff exercised professional judgment. I stand behind that. Devon looked at her steadily. He didn't answer right away. He thought, briefly and without meaning to, of his father, 19 years of night shifts, coming home before the sun was up, carrying a particular kind of tiredness Devon had understood even as a boy. Not bitterness. Just the exhaustion of a man who had spent his life being dismissed by people who decided, before he opened his mouth, that he didn't matter. His father had never raised his voice about it either. Devon noted Christine's full name. Her title. Quietly. Completely. Without making any show of it. Then he did something neither of them expected. He stepped back from the desk, crossed the lobby, and lowered himself into one of the chairs near the marble pillar, settling Maya against his side. He wasn't leaving. He was watching. Because if this was happening here, at the Harris Empire, the one property that was supposed to set the standard for everything else he owned, he needed to see the full shape of it before he decided what came next. Behind the desk, Christine and Tanner exchanged a glance. Devon didn't look at them. He was watching the lobby instead, the warm light, the marble, the lounge chairs full of guests who had no idea anything had happened at all. Watching what a place did once it believed the problem had been handled. He did not have to wait long. Christine had not gone back to her office. She had stationed herself near the desk, watching him the way a person watches something they've decided is a problem, but haven't yet worked out how to remove. Christine crossed the lobby toward him with a measured stride, her voice lowered to a register designed to sound discreet while still carrying to the people nearby. "Sir, I've given you some time, and I want to be straightforward with you. This is a private establishment. We've explained that we can't accommodate you tonight, and continuing to occupy the lobby after being informed of that isn't something we're going to allow." Devon's response was calm, precise, and unanswerable. "I'm sitting in a chair in a hotel lobby. I haven't raised my voice. I haven't caused any disruption. And I haven't done a single thing that would give you grounds to ask me to leave." "I'm not asking," Christine said. Something in the room shifted. A guest at the bar set their glass down without seeming to notice they'd done it. At the concierge desk, a young woman named Priya went completely still, her hands flat on the counter in front of her. Devon looked at Christine and said the thing she least expected. "Then I'd like you to call security. I want this to be official." They arrived within minutes, 2 guards, large, moving with the patient heaviness of men who had done this enough times to make it routine. They positioned themselves on either side of Devon's chair. It was at that exact moment that Maya woke up. She came back to consciousness the way children do, not gradually, but all at once. Her eyes opened and took in the lobby, the guards, the tightness in her father's body, Christine's expression, in a single unhurried sweep, as if her mind needed only a second to understand that something here was wrong. She sat up straighter against him. Pulled her bear tighter to her chest. And then she looked directly at Christine and asked, with the complete sincerity of a child who takes questions seriously. "Are you making us leave because of how we look?" The lobby did not erupt. It went the opposite direction, completely still. The couple near the elevator turned. The guests at the bar stopped pretending to look anywhere else. Phones appeared, not raised, not making a production of it, just present and quietly angled. Christine opened her mouth. Closed it again. Devon looked down at his daughter. "You didn't do anything wrong," he said. "Not one thing." He held her gaze until she nodded. Then he straightened, reached into his jacket pocket, and took out his phone. The call lasted less than 90 seconds. He said very little. He listened. He ended the call, put the phone back in his pocket, and looked at Christine with an expression that had moved past calm into something older and more certain than calm. "We'll wait," he said. The elevator at the far end of the lobby chimed. The elevator at the far end of the lobby produced that same small chime dozens of times a night, the kind of sound a place absorbs without anyone noticing. Every person in the room noticed this one. The doors opened, and Raymond Cole stepped out, silver-haired, dark-tailored suit not quite settled from however quickly he'd put it on, moving across the marble with the barely contained urgency of a man who fully understood the weight of what he was walking into. He crossed the lobby floor directly to Devon. He didn't look at Tanner. He didn't look at Christine. He looked at Devon the way a man looks at someone he has just realized he has failed, and he stopped in front of him with a formality that carried real weight behind it. "Mr. Harris. I'm sorry you were kept waiting." The lobby absorbed this in complete silence. Raymond turned to face the front desk. His voice, when he spoke again, was even, which somehow made it land harder than if he'd raised it. "This is Devon Harris. He is the founder and sole owner of Harris Hospitality Group and the Harris Empire. He owns this building. He owns the uniforms you are wearing, the desk you are standing behind, and the contracts that determine whether you are here tomorrow." Tanner's face drained of color. Both his hands went flat against the mahogany counter, as if he needed it to hold him upright. Christine didn't move at all. The certainty that had carried her across that lobby 10 minutes earlier was gone, replaced by something gray and inward, a woman recalculating everything she thought she understood about the last half hour. The security guard stepped back without being told to, instinctively putting distance between themselves and a situation that had just completely restructured itself. Near the bar, the guests who had quietly been recording lowered their phones, caught somewhere between the instinct to keep documenting and the sense that what was happening now required something more than a screen between them and it. Maya looked up at Raymond. Then at her father. Then back at Raymond. "Daddy," she said quietly. "He knows your name." Devon pulled her close. "Yeah, baby. He works for me." Nobody moved. That was the thing Devon noticed most, the complete absence of motion in a room that had, only minutes ago, been building towards something loud and certain. He looked at Tanner's face, pale and frozen above the counter. Then at Christine's, gray and still beside him. And he began to speak. Devon did not raise his voice. He spoke the way a man speaks when what he has to say has been earned over a long time and doesn't require any decoration to land. "You didn't do this because of something I said or something I did," he told Tanner. "You did it because of what you decided about me the moment I walked through that door. And you made that decision in front of my daughter." Tanner said nothing. There was nothing left in him to say. "My father cleaned hotel lobbies like this one for 19 years, Devon continued. He came home every night carrying something he never fully put down, the particular exhaustion of being dismissed by people who decided, before he ever opened his mouth, that he didn't matter." He paused. "I didn't build this company out of bitterness. I built it out of clarity. That the person standing at your counter deserves dignity before they've proven anything to you. Not after you've assessed their clothes. Not after you've decided they look like they belong. Before." He looked at Christine. Then at Raymond. "Tanner, you're terminated, effective tonight." He turned. "So are you, Christine." Neither of them spoke. Tanner straightened his jacket once, the small, automatic gesture of a man trying to hold on to the last intact piece of his dignity, and walked toward the back office without another word. Christine followed a few steps behind him, her composure gone entirely now, nothing left underneath it but the walk itself. Devon crossed to the concierge desk, where a dark-haired young woman had been standing motionless through all of it, hands flat on the counter, waiting to find out whether she was about to be blamed for something she hadn't done. He spoke quietly, only for her. "You saw it," he said. "You knew something was wrong, and the structure here made it nearly impossible for you to act on that. That's a failure of leadership. Not of character." He let that settle for a moment. "Starting tomorrow morning, you're moving into a supervisory role in guest services. I need people in positions where they can actually do something with what they know is right." Her name tag read Priya. She looked at him for a long moment before she found her voice. "I won't let you down." "I know," Devon said simply. He turned back to face the room, the guests, the staff, the marble floor, the warm light, everything he had built a long time ago to make people feel immediately welcome the second they walked through that door. He had one more thing to say. Devon faced the lobby. He spoke without preamble, the way he had learned to speak when what needed to be said did not improve with any decoration around it. "Every person who walks through our doors gets treated with dignity," he said. "Not based on what they're wearing. Not based on what they look like. Not based on whether they seem like they belong in a place like this. Every person. Every time. Without exception. That is what this company is." He looked around the room as he said it, at the desk, at the bar, at the marble floor his father had never walked across as anything other than an employee. "If anyone here cannot commit to that standard, would genuinely rather you find somewhere else to work. Not as a threat. Just as the truth of what we are." The room held the words. Nobody rushed to fill the silence. People let it sit the way it deserved to. And then Maya, who had stood beside her father through all of it with her bear tucked under her arm and the focused expression of a 9-year-old determined to understand the world correctly, looked up and tugged once on his hand. "Daddy. Can we please get our room now? I'm really, really tired." It moved through the room like something finally released, not quite laughter, but something adjacent to it. The particular sound a group of people makes when tension finally finds somewhere to go. Even Raymond pressed his lips together against a smile he was clearly fighting. Devon looked down at his daughter, at her earnest face, her worn bare, her absolute uncomplicated sincerity, and felt the thing that had been sitting in his chest all evening finally shift. Not disappear. Just move into something with more room in it. "Yeah, baby," he said. "We're getting our room." Raymond personally escorted them to the finest suite in the building. Devon hadn't asked for it. He would have taken the standard room he'd requested an hour earlier without a second thought. But tonight Raymond needed somewhere to put what he was feeling, and this was the only thing available to him. Devon carried Maya through the suite door. She was already half asleep again by the time he laid her down, her bear still tucked under her chin. He sat at the edge of the bed for a long time after, just watching her breathe. 3 months later, Devon came back to the Harris empire. This time he wore a jacket instead of a leather one. This time he called ahead. But some things, he did exactly the same way as before. 3 months later, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, Devon Harris walked through the revolving doors of the Harris empire wearing a jacket instead of leather. Maya walked beside him this time, her bear tucked under one arm, her free hand swinging loosely at her side. He didn't announce himself to the floor right away. Old habit. He wanted to see the ordinary version of the place first, the everyday work of it, what it did when it believed the moment was routine and no one important was watching. A family came through the doors a few minutes later. 2 parents, travel-worn, dressed for comfort rather than impressions. 2 young kids trailing behind them, one of them dragging an overstuffed backpack across the marble with the absolute conviction of a child who had decided this was a matter of principle and would not be accepting help. Priya was at the front of the house when they arrived. She crossed the lobby to meet the family before they'd even reached the desk, introduced herself by name, and asked how she could make their stay easy. She didn't look at their luggage. She didn't look at their shoes. She looked at them, at the tired eyes, the stubborn kid with the backpack, and smiled the way people smile when they actually mean it. Within 2 minutes, the parents' shoulders had come down. Within 5, even the kid with the backpack had let someone take it from him. Devon and Maya stood in the far corner of the lobby, watching. He hadn't said a word to the floor yet. Maya watched Priya lead the family toward the desk, watched the kids light up when Priya said something that made them both laugh. Then she looked up at her father. "Is that what it's supposed to look like?" she asked. Devon watched the family settle in. I watched the tired parents finally exhale. I watched the kid let go of that backpack like it had never mattered at all. "Yeah, baby," he said. "That's exactly what it's supposed to look like." Maya considered this with the quiet thoroughness she brought to most things. Then she nodded once, tucked her bare back under her arm, and reached up to take her father's hand. Devon held it. And they stood there together, in the corner of the lobby he had built a long time ago, watching it finally become what he had always meant it to be. Every person deserves to be treated with dignity, before they prove anything, before they show you what they have, before you decide whether they belong. That's not just good business. That's just what's right. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. We tell more stories like this one every week. Thank you for watching.